So, this video was a long time coming. Was gonna try and do it earlier in the year, but things got in the way. Doctor Who stuff, other videos, a lot of job stuff. But here I am finally doing a follow-up to one of my most popular videos ever. For some reason. I still can't explain it, yet here we are. So with that, I'm doing a follow-up on the day Season 3 comes out. And when the actual Season 3 is finished, I'll try to do another video within a normal window of time. So today we ask the question, is Dickinson still good? That's kind of all I have to say. It was definitely a disappointment in comparison to last season. Last season was a pleasant surprise, but it still needed a lot of work. The second season, for at least the first half, doubled down on the stupidity from the first season. There was very little dark humor, was replaced with more cringy Gen Z humor that made me constantly roll my eyes. The music was more in your face, I felt, and was again very eye-rolling. The characterization felt really off, mainly with Sue, because despite what happens to her, I feel like they went too overboard with certain qualities of her character. At certain points, I was kind of in awe with how much of a terrible person she became, and it became harder and harder to empathize with her. And when it comes to the things she went through, I am aware of how terrible that can be for someone, and I empathize greatly, real or fiction. But I think she was too far gone in certain areas and at certain times, as well as feeling bad more so for Austin, who I will say was a much better character this season, and one of the few things in the first half of the season I actually genuinely liked. With that though, the storylines were all really boring and forgettable and a bit nonsensical with little bite. I lost interest pretty quickly. I just kept watching in the hopes that it got better, and so I can make a video. That's honestly it. However, it luckily did get better. The opera episode entitled Split the Lark is where things got interesting. I was actually intrigued with where things were going to go, how the relationship with Sam and Emily was going to develop, and then towards the end of the episode with Sue singing was a major plus for me. Not only does she have a great set of pipes, but there were some intriguing bits when it comes to Fame and Emily trying to deal with that. From that point on, the season got a bit better. Not majorly, but it did improve. The characters overall became more interesting, their arcs had a little more depth to them, the subplots were just as interesting, and overall it was a bit more of an interesting watch. There was a little less cringy Gen Z humor as well. Then everything just kind of wrapped up nicely in the season finale. Considering how the season 1 finale was middling at best, this one actually worked because it improved the season, and made sense as to why Sue became so horrible outside of what happened to her. That doesn't excuse some of the sloppier aspects, but I still felt it brought everything to a head properly. The spa episode was pretty hilarious to me as a standout. Anything that makes fun of new age horseshit is good in my book, so that was a welcome addition. I liked the episode where after Emily was published, she literally became invisible. On the surface, it makes little sense, but for a more experimental, metaphorical/allegorical episode, I think it worked. I liked the nobody/Frasier hallucination in regards to Fame. I did have to look up who that was, but I think that made sense and worked with what they were going for with how Emily was looking at Fame after she was published. I think the only things that sucked for me for the entire season was Lavinia's subplot with Ship, and more telling and not showing. Lavinia's relationship got tiresome by episode 1, and it didn't get any better 9 episodes later. At a certain point, I just started fast-forwarding scenes they had together because it was just cringy, will they or won't they crap. I get it, it's made for the shipping fangirls. I mean, the guy's name isn't exactly subtle, is it? So, I get it, it's cute, just not for my demographic. Technically, the entire show isn't, but whatever. If the writing is good enough, it should defy all demographics, but that's beside the point. Then there was more telling and not showing of how much of a genius Emily is, and that got tiresome as well. Sue's explanation at the end did help a bit, but I wish they had more of that, rather than everyone telling Emily how amazing she is. Overall, this was a weaker season, but it did have some nuggets of good in it. The latter half improved things, most of the arcs were good. Sue and Emily's relationship took a backseat for her development as a character, which I kind of minded because their relationship is the heart of the show. as well as Sue becoming sort of intolerable at some points, understandably, but still going a bit too far at certain places. There is a lot of cringy humor, many of the subplots felt forced, i.e. Lavinia's relationship and the little girls who I legitimately forgot about up until this point. And it took a while to get going. It's a decent season, but season 1 was better. Hopefully season 3 caps things off well enough, but honestly I'm more interested in Hawkeye at this point.